This recoupling had me in my feelings. Let me tell you, I was so sad. I wasn't expecting for this person to go home. But y'all, let's talk about it.
Kay Unscripted, no teeth restricted. In this journey, watch our stories unfold.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. This is Kay Unscripted. I'm your girl Kay, and today we're breaking down Love Island USA Season 8 Episode 5. But before we get into it, please take a moment to like this video, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more recaps like this one. So let's talk about this episode. There was so much happening. At some point I was just so tired. But anyways, the first order of business was Melanie trying to cool off after that awkward exchange with Bea. So she pulled Aniyah aside and the girl was sobbing. Melanie said that she hated being spoken to in that tone, and she was trying so hard to stay composed because once she gets emotional, the waterworks are right behind it. Aniyah did try her best to comfort her, reminding her that she had already apologized and taken accountability, so there wasn't much else she could have done. Now, Aniyah, I like you, but you're also playing in Melanie's face because you also said she was wrong. But here you are gassing her up, telling her she did nothing wrong. You do know it's okay to tell someone when they're wrong and still support them, right? Yeah, do better. Now over on the side, we have Trinity, who's telling Beatrice that she could see both sides of the situation. She acknowledged that Melanie had apologized and taken accountability, which was ultimately all Bea had wanted to begin with. And as far as she's concerned, the issue was over and there was no reason to keep dragging it out. Now, Trinity also did point out to Bea that her communication style can come across a little intense if someone doesn't know the person well enough. Now, Bea apparently says that she stood by her actions, saying all she wanted was for Melanie to own up to it and to correct the behavior, adding that real friends should be able to call each other out when necessary. Now, in her eyes, she said she meant what she meant, she said what she said, and she wasn't losing sleep over it. And while I agree with Bea, she has to also admit that she did come off strong, and like Trinity said, she was definitely giving, she wanted to have the final word in. Okay? Now, Sean and Bryce have a chat. Sean's letting him know upfront that he still planned to pursue Trinity and would probably keep pulling her for conversations. Bryce appreciated the honesty and said to Sean that he was actually being really respectful about it. He also said that he wasn't angry or threatened, but he explained that his connection with Trinity has actually grown a lot recently and that he felt good about where they stood, even if the villa constantly felt like an emotional roller coaster. Sean mentions that Trinity and Aniyah had always been his top interest, but he was still waiting for his chance to really move up the ranks. Now, I haven't really seen Sean pursue none of these girls, but he's going to need to put some speed under his shoes because things change very quickly in Love Island. So we see Kenzie, who then has a chat with the bombshell Corbin, and I couldn't tell if the chemistry was real, okay? The conversation started off really light with Kenzie talking about growing up in Georgia and loving country concerts, while Corbin admitted he'd never really actually been to a concert. Now, do y'all remember how I said in my previous video that I feel like Kenzie, she just be saying things she thinks the guy wants to hear, so she could say that they have something in common. Well, she did it again because if I can recall, she said to Gabrielle that she was tired of her hometown, right? Here she is telling Corbin that she loves her hometown. So I'll come to my next point on that because I do see her saying it again. Now things get flirty with Kenzie and Corbin. She asked him about his type, and Corbin basically looked at her dead in the face and said, "You are my type." Now, in my opinion, I feel like Kenzie is a little bit thirsty, but that's just me. Now, he started complimenting her eyes, and now she was getting all giddy because she said she hadn't felt that kind of instant attraction in the villa yet, or so she says. Now, here goes Corbin trying to spit some game, talking about, oh, he needs a reminder of the kiss, and so they end up sharing a kiss, with then Kenzie saying that he's the only one that turns her on, and that's my second point right there, because we did also hear her tell Gabriel the same thing. Y'all, am I tripping? Please let me know, because I don't know, it's kind of giving a pattern with Kenzie. Now, after this whole situation with Melanie was done. Like, you could tell she was trying really hard to hold it together, but the second she got a chance, she pulled Sincere for a chat because she needed someone to vent to. Sincere immediately switched into friend mode. He wasn't even trying to argue or anything. He was just allowing her space to get whatever she needed to get off her chest. So Melanie started explaining what happened and basically says, look, Corbin is cute. We all know Corbin is cute. And when they were sitting around talking, she was making eye contact with him because that's literally how she talks to people. But apparently, Bia felt like Melanie was leaning over everybody to stay at Corbin and was being disrespectful, especially because Kenzie is single. Now, Melanie said that she was genuinely confused because Kenzie had not even said anything to her. So in her mind, she's thinking, why am I getting called out for something that wasn't even intentional? And honestly, you could tell she was more hurt than angry. Now, what I loved about this conversation was that Sincere didn't dismiss her feelings. He listened. Then he basically asked her straight up, do you want to explore? And Melanie was honest. She said, yes, I am open to talking to people. And she didn't sugarcoat it either. She straight up admitted that Corbin is her type. Meanwhile, Sincere basically said, girl, I knew he was your type the second he walked through that door. But the sweetest part of the conversation was when Sincere reminded her that no matter what happens between them romantically, he wants for her to feel comfortable coming to him and talking to him instead of bottling things up. Now, you could see Melanie instantly relax because at that moment, she wasn't really looking for a boyfriend. She was just looking for somebody to understand her. And by the end of the conversation, she was laughing through her tears. She was talking about how she looked like she'd been crying all day, and Sincere was like, no, you don't, you just had a good cry. I really liked how he showed up for her in that moment, but also, Melanie, that's enough for the day, okay? Kayda then pulled Corbin for a chat. So they were chatting about Corbin, and he started asking about breakfast in the villa. Kayda tells him Zach would make her breakfast, and this man goes, well, what if another guy wanted to make you breakfast? I said, sir, you're trying to steal somebody's eggs already? But Kayda wasn't shutting down anything. She just basically said, look, me and Zach, we clicked immediately, but I am also still open. Which honestly, that is how things operate on Love Island. Then she starts spilling a little tea and tells Corbin that all the girls were excited for him to come in. And while he was talking to everybody earlier, the boys were over there stressing. But here's where it got funny, right? Corbin brings up the kiss from the challenge and asks if she liked it. She said yes. And this man has the audacity to be like, yeah, but it was a long time ago. I need a reminder. A reminder? Corbin, what is happening? Now, he straight up asked her for another kiss using the same line on two girls. Ew, that was so cringe to me. But Kayda immediately puts him on pause. She's like, hold on now. Are you going around kissing all the girls? And Corbin lies and said no. But she's basically telling him, you know good and well that's going to start some mess. Now, I actually liked how she handled that situation because she wasn't giving in just because he's tall, tatted, and cute. And honestly, the more I heard Corbin's voice, the more annoying it became to me. That's just me. Now, she told him she wanted to have a few more conversations before she even thought about kissing him again. Now, in her confessional, she did admit that she thinks he's attractive and she could see it happening eventually, but she wasn't about to make it easy for him. And honestly, their flirting was a little cute, but I'm still not convinced that she's ready to jump ship from Zach just yet. So Trinity walks up, she interrupts the conversation and she asks to have a chat with Corbin. Now, this conversation was actually cute. Trinity asks Corbin about his family, and it turns out that they're both the babies of their families. Corbin said his biggest goal is to build a family and to be able to provide for them in the right way. Then Trinity got a little bit vulnerable and admitted that she didn't grow up seeing a stable two-parent household, so she's always dreamed about having the white picket fence kind of love for herself. She said more than anything, she just wants to find her person and to be genuinely happy. Corbin says in his confessional that he thinks there's potential there because Trinity is beautiful, soft-spoken, and someone he would like to keep getting to know. Now, Aniyah walks up and pulls him for a chat. All of the girls are trying to talk to the bombshell, okay? So they got comfortable on the swings and started talking about what they're looking for. Corbin said obviously physical attraction matters, but personality is what really keeps his attention. He said he wants someone who can hold their own, especially in social settings, because he's big on ambition and confidence. But Aniyah, we see her, she was just nodding along the whole time and she was like, okay, I could work with that. Then they realized they actually have similar family dynamics. Corbin explained that his siblings are much older than him, so he basically grew up like an only child. When she asked if he was more of a relationship guy, he admitted that he's only had 2 serious relationships and Loki considers himself a lover boy, but only once the right person brings that side of him. She told him how easy he was to talk to and even complimented his eye contact. Then in her confessional, she basically admitted that not only does Corbin have game, but she's already looking forward to seeing him working out with his shirt off the next morning. I mean, a little eye candy never hurt nobody, right? Now, Sean finally pulled Trinity for a chat. And right off the bat, Sean checked in on her and made sure that she was doing okay. Then they joked about Corbin saying when he first saw him come in, he was like, where did they find this man? Mount Olympus? Basically admitting that, Corbin was ridiculously cute. Now, Trinity tells Sean that she was interested in getting to know him, and she's also trying to be mindful of Kenzie because Kenzie is single and also exploring him. She said she doesn't want to step on anyone's toes, even though she knows she's there for herself. Now, Sean completely understood where she was coming from, but made it clear he wasn't giving up. He told her that he's interested in her, he's going to keep pulling her for chats, and he's just going to see where things go naturally. Now, in her confessional, she admitted that she had been wanting to have another chat with Sean for a while. She said he was fine and said that the conversation went really well, and basically confirmed that she's open to seeing where the connection could land. So Sean is definitely still in the running. Sean, I'm gonna need you to do a little bit more, okay? So the Islanders head to bed and a few things happen. We see Kayda letting the girls know that Corbin was begging her for kisses. We also see Sean bringing up to Kenzie the way she behaved at that challenge towards Zach. And Beatrice was also filling in Gabrielle about Melanie and saying that she was doing a lot. But anyways, everyone heads to bed. And so we get to the next day. Aniyah and Kenzie had a little catch up, and honestly, it was giving therapy session. So Aniyah was basically like, sis, you have so many options right now. And Kenzie couldn't even deny it. She admitted that she was feeling good, having so many options, and she feels like she's being pulled in a bunch of different directions because she likes more than one guy. She said she originally wanted another chat with Gabriel because that kiss they shared was spicy and definitely left an impression. But then she brought up Corbin and admitted the conversation in Soul Ties went surprisingly well. She said she felt comfortable and connected with him almost immediately, up until Aniyah mentions to her that Kayda spilled the tea that Corbin had been out there asking multiple girls for kisses. And Kenzie was like, wait, not him trying to collect kisses like Pokemon cards, okay? She did say it gave her a little bit of F-boy energy. And so she kind of switched gears talking about Sean. She admitted that whenever she's with him, she just feels safe. And not only does he listen to her, but she genuinely feels like he cares about what she has to say. So Aniyah reminded her that she is single and vulnerable, and so she has to explore all of her options before locking in with anyone. Now these two decide that the villain needed a reset, and so they randomly announced that they're hosting a meditation and stretching class. They gathered everybody together and they were doing the breathing exercising and all of the things. Alright, so then we see Sean, who's sitting with Bia and Gabriel, and he's asking for some relationship advice, okay? Because this man is still trying to figure out which direction he wants to go. So he starts laying everything out and says his main connections right now are Trinity and Kenzie. He admits that Kenzie has actually been pretty well. Things have been going pretty well with them, but it did get a little bump in the road after the challenge. Apparently, he wasn't really feeling how she handled part of the game, especially when she threw some shade at Zach. It rubbed him the wrong way at first, but they talked about it. She was receptive and they moved past it. Then Sean was basically like, okay, so what would you all do if you were me? So Bia immediately asked if he'd be comfortable pursuing Trinity even though Bryce is involved and interested in Trinity. He was fine with it, right? So Bia tells him he needs to keep talking to the women he's interested in and maybe turn the flirting up a notch, because apparently Sean has been playing things a little too safe. Bia especially was like, so women like when men flirt, okay? So she told him that things are going to work out in his favor, and I really hope so. Sean has connections with multiple girls. He's really well respected around the villa. He's not really causing drama, but he needs to stop overthinking and start applying a little pressure, because right now he's acting more like a life coach than looking for romantic options, and he needs to do something quickly, okay? Now Kenzie and Corbin finally have a conversation, because she was definitely side-eyeing him after hearing what Kayda had to say. So Kenzie sits him down and basically tells him, listen, when we were all in the dressing room, Kayda mentioned that you asked her to kiss you like 3 different times, and I'm not even going to lie, it gave F-boy energy. Now sis wasn't sugarcoating anything, right? So Corbin, he did admit that he probably moved way too fast. He said after the conversation, he was feeling the vibe so much that he just went for the kiss without realizing that he was doing too much. But later that night, he was really stuck replaying things in his head and realized that he was wrong, right? Kenzie told him it didn't completely ruin the connection, but it did make her lean a little bit more towards Sean. She said that Sean has this way of making her feel protected, and then she hits us with the funniest analogy, right? She was like, I want to feel like a little gazelle and the lion is chasing girl. The lion is chasing me. Girl, what? Anyway, she starts talking about all the sweet things that Sean does for her, like arranging her eggs and talking about all of these things. And Corbin was just like, okay, so I have some competition, right? But I don't know, y'all, I still feel a little bit iffy about Corbin. He comes off a bit cringe to me, and I'm not sure I believe his explanation to Kenzie, because had Kayda kissed him, I wonder what excuse he would come up with. Now, Y'all, this conversation actually surprised me because it went from we need to clear the air to a whole therapy session. And I'm talking about the conversation between Beatrice and Melanie. Now, Beatrice pretty much says to Melanie that she stands by what she said, but maybe the way she said it came across wrong. Now, she wants to know if it was really her delivery that rubbed Melanie the wrong way. Melanie was honest and she said yes. It wasn't necessarily the message, it was how bluntly it was delivered. She also reminds Bia that she immediately apologized to the person who was actually affected. So from her perspective, she had already tried to make things right. Bia explains that her reaction came from looking out for Kenzie, who was vulnerable, and because she wasn't sure where Trinity and Bryce stood. She knows she's naturally direct and blunt, but she also doesn't want people thinking that she's trying to be disrespectful to anyone. So once they clear that up, the conversation takes a completely different turn. We do see Bia opening up about one of her biggest insecurities, admitting that she worries that because she's athletic and energetic, guys see her as one of the boys instead of someone feminine or sexy. She says she almost feels like she has to force herself into this soft, girly version of herself to attract men, even though that's not naturally who she is. Melanie tells Bia that she actually admires her and thinks that she's incredibly feminine already. She reminds her that beauty alone isn't enough to keep someone's interest, and because of her personality and her confidence, she is able to do activities with her guy, right? So in Melanie's eyes, Bia is selling herself way too short, and I agree. Bia gets emotional talking about how she was raised to hide her feelings, explaining that after everything she's been through growing up, vulnerability doesn't come naturally to her. So Bia also tells Melanie that being sensitive and expressing her emotions is actually a strength and not a weakness. And to which Melanie tells her that she's actually very feminine and she doesn't see it because women are often forced to fit into a box. And that conversation was so relatable, and I'm so glad they talk things out and was able to relate to each other in some way. We see a chat between Gabriel and Bia. He just pretty much lets her know that he intends to chat with Kenzie because he didn't get a chance to, and it's more so to catch up. Meanwhile, Corbin and Melanie have a chat. She immediately tells him that some of the girls felt a way that she was the first to pull him for a chat, and at the same time we're seeing Sincere talking to Aniyah, expressing that he couldn't understand why Melanie felt like she needed to be the first to pull Corbin for a chat. Now, Corbin also fills Melanie in that he's getting into a little bit of murky water after he kissed Kenzie and tried to kiss Kayda also, and how Kenzie checked him on that. Then we see Sincere expressing that he was low-key offended that Melanie asked him to be a friend to her in a moment when she needed a friend and wasn't really down with that. I am just about over the Sincere and Melanie drama. Can you please get over it already? So these two finally sit down and he basically tells her, listen, I know we're here to explore, so if you want to explore, then explore. I just need us to be honest with each other. He's making it clear that he's not trying to stop her from getting to know people, but transparency is non-negotiable. He said that it wasn't the flirting itself that bothered him, it was seeing her act with someone else the same way she acts with him. He's like, well, if the roles were reversed and you had to watch me and see me doing that with another girl, she said she would be over there sweating bullets and probably crying. So he tells her that when she asked him to talk to her as a friend, it genuinely hurt his feelings, because in his mind he's thinking, hold on, I'm supposed to be your person in here, why are you putting me in the friend zone? She says that when she asked him to switch into friend mode, she wasn't trying to downgrade the relationship, she just wanted someone who would be brutally honest with her instead of sugarcoating things because they were romantically involved. Basically saying, don't baby me if I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong. Now, can you all tell that I'm so tired of this too? Because I am. Because I didn't really understand Sincere's logic behind the friend comment, But anyway, they finally resolved their little issues, and now we can move past their nonsense. Now we get to witness the cutest conversation between Casey and Aniyah, and from the jump, he was laying it on thick. He's complimenting her outfit, telling her she looks beautiful, noticing the flower in her hair, and basically making sure she knows she's being seen. And honestly, you could tell Aniyah loves hearing it because she's been needing that reassurance. But then the conversation gets deeper. Casey starts talking about how darker skinned women are often getting treated unfairly, and they don't always receive the same level of appreciation. He shares that growing up he watched family members struggle with insecurities because they were constantly comparing themselves to beauty standards that didn't look like them. And the second he starts talking about that, Aniyah is fighting back tears. He tells her, don't compare yourself to anyone because you are the blueprint. And whew, that landed. At that point, Aniyah was getting really emotional and she was trying not to cry, while Casey kept reassuring her and reminding her how beautiful she is. Then he brings it back to their connection and tells her that every conversation they have makes him feel closer to her. And honestly, that's exactly how Aniyah felt too. She says every time they talk, their connection gets deeper because he's constantly pouring into her, hyping her up and making her feel secure. Now that was really cute, Casey, and I salute him for speaking life into dark-skinned women. Big up you, Casey. So Corbin pulls Kayda for another chat. And the very first thing he brings up is that kiss he tried to get the other night, right? He's basically like, listen, you left me hanging. Is the kiss still on the table, or have I been permanently rejected, right? Kayda starts laughing and she tells him she actually liked how confident he came in. The confidence wasn't the issue at all. She just wasn't about to hand out a kiss that easily. So she reminds him that she's still coupled up with Zach, so she's trying to move a little slower. Corbin takes it pretty well and he basically is like, well, fair enough. I guess that means I've got to work 10 times harder. Now she tells him straight up, I'm not that easy. And of course, Corbin couldn't help himself. He starts flirting again, complimenting her eyes and making it clear that he's still interested. He then asks what she's actually looking for, since they're both only 22 and people usually assume they aren't ready to settle down. Kayda says she's absolutely looking for a real relationship. She's not saying she wants to get married tomorrow and to start having babies next week, but she does want to leave the villa with someone. Corbin also agrees and says he loves the idea of growing and involving with a partner. And in that conversation, we do see Kayda saying in her confessional that she's actually glad she didn't kiss him the night before. In her mind, playing a little hard to get might work in her favor, and now Corbin has to chase her just a little bit more. But I don't know, Corbin is still coming off cringe to me. I don't know, what do y'all think? Please let me know. Now Gabriel and Kenzie have a quick little chat. He lets her know that he was really surprised at her dance moves at that challenge and that he really enjoyed her kiss. Now, while she did too enjoy the kiss with Gabriel, she did say in her confessional that she's a little bit hesitant to cross that path because Bia ain't playing games by her man, okay? So she knows not to mess with Bia's man. Now, Bryce and Trinity have a chat. They joke around a little bit and then the conversation shifts into childhood stories. Bryce starts talking about growing up. He says all the girls liked him when he was younger and tells this story about the hottest girl in school calling him the cutest guy in front of everybody. Now, according to Bryce, instead of celebrating, the guys got jealous and started bullying him. Meanwhile, Trinity kind of keeps it real and says that she wasn't exactly the girl everyone was checking for when she was younger. She says she was pretty skinny, and growing up in a Black and Hispanic community, the beauty standards was all about curves. So she didn't really fit into what was considered the ideal look back then. But he starts hyping her up. He's telling her that she has a doll face, and that was one of the first things he noticed about her. Then we get to a confessional from Trinity, and she said that she was skeptical about Bryce, and I still am skeptical about Bryce. But she said in the beginning she was skeptical and wasn't sure where things were headed, but now she's fully leaning into it. She says she likes him, she likes his energy, and being around him makes her feel good. Kayda then gets a text letting the islanders know that there's going to be a recoupling. The girls get to pick, and the guy left unpicked will be leaving the villa. Now we also get a twist because Corbin also got a text that tells him that he will be able to pick his girl first. Now I don't know why they gave him that power, but I guess they're trying to make things a little bit more interesting this season. So as everyone got ready for the night, conversations started happening all over the villa. Some of the guys and the girls feel a little bit unsure about their decision, but everyone gets dressed up, and then we see Ariana making her entrance into the villa. Now she knew she had no business looking this good entering the villa, okay? So it was finally time for the recoupling, and the tension at the fire pit was thick. We're going to get straight into the recoupling. The boys are asked to stand in the front of the fire pit, and then Ariana lets them know that Corbin will get a chance to pick his girl first. So yeah, the guys look extremely nervous. So Corbin picks which girl he would like to couple up with, and he chooses Kenzie. Kenzie didn't look too happy, and honestly, I didn't like that twist at all, but oh well, let's move on. We start with the first girl, Aniyah, and she chooses KC. Next up was Melanie, and she picked Sincere. When she picked him, he seemed genuinely touched by what she said. Then he got up there talking about when you pray for rain, you've got to deal with the mud too. Sincere, please, okay? Please. Then Kayda chose Zach, which wasn't exactly shocking. Then came Beatrice, and I think she delivered one of the sweetest speeches of the evening. She talked about always feeling like she had to be tough and guard herself, but when she's with Gabriel, she gets to be soft. So of course, she chose Gabriel. Now here's where the drama kicked in, because after all the other couples were locked in, we were left with Trinity, Bryce, and Sean. Trinity had to choose between these two, and she chose Bryce. And he just looked relieved. He didn't look happy. He didn't look excited. Just relieved to still be there. I feel like Bryce should have went home. But unfortunately, that meant Sean was left single and vulnerable. And that's when the whole mood changed in the villa. Even though Sean didn't have the strongest romantic connection in the house, you could tell that everybody really loved him. You could immediately see how much respect the other islanders had for him. And I must say he handled that situation with so much grace, even though it sucked for him. But he also said it was nice hearing everyone expressing their feelings for each other. And then he said that maybe one day somebody will say those things about him. And I'm not even going to lie, my heart broke a little bit for Sean in that moment. I didn't want him to go, but y'all, that's a wrap on episode 5 of Love Island USA season 8. I want to hear your thoughts on this episode, and as always, if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.